Welcome to Pie the Corner. My name's Pat.
And I'm Shane.
And here at Pie the Corner, we like to discuss music, politics, religion, current events, and pretty much anything else we can think of. You can find Pie the Corner at all of the well-known podcasting platforms, such as Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a host of others. And now you can also catch us at our YouTube page, which is Pie the Corner Podcast on YouTube. How you doing, Shane?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm okay. Things are a little crazy.
I think I mentioned it before. Every time I see people in public or when I catch up with you or see your face, you ask somebody how you're doing, and the second you stop asking, you don't really want to hear the answer, and they don't really want to tell you how they're feeling. But it's a formality, and I'm going to continue asking it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is one of those things that people ask, and if you tell the truth, they're like, "Oh, I didn't want to know that."
Yeah.
Not that you would, but you know what I mean. It's
yeah,
like,
it was that way before, but it's probably that way even more so now.
Yeah, things are a little crazy, I guess. These things around here in our neck of the woods are starting to try to, well, I wouldn't say get back to normal, but get back to some semblance of reality.
Yeah. It seems like we're gonna try to open up again with proper protocol this time, so to speak. Open up and continue with the mask and continue with the social distancing.
Yeah, let's see how many people do that. I guess they were saying at the UT game that 8% of the people that went there and tested were actually COVID positive. I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Did they let them? Probably they didn't let them in, but I'm just like, they're not, it's probably a lot of asymptomatic people, I suppose.
Yeah, and I have a real issue with that. There's a lot of outbreaks on all the college campuses too. And one thing that's weird is once they test positive, they send them home. Which
really? They send them home?
Yeah, instead of actually quarantining them on the campus, they're sending them home into their own community to spread more infection. I mean, but there's still a little bit of controversy over that. Yeah, I mean, our numbers are down, but I read a little bit about it today. I haven't been following it near as much. I don't really see the need, but Fauci's sounding the alarm again. Infections up in 11 states, and worried about the fall, and Trump saying we're turning the corner, and it just really seems like we're almost back in April or something. It's just really weird. I still contend that human beings are ill-equipped, especially like modern society. Human beings are ill-equipped to handle this type of situation. I mean, it's no wonder we're failing so horribly. We don't know how to do it. There's no precedent, and there's really no authority. So here we are.
I would argue even that I think we've been through this before, right? In the 1918 flu pandemic, and back then, for the most part, people were on the same. Now we don't know, right? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of stories to say, "Oh, it was just like it was back then," or "It's just." But it seems like it was easier to say, "Hey, we're in this together. Wear a mask, and stay away from people," and blah blah blah. And our culture, America at least, did that. We don't do that anymore.
That's probably not entirely true, Pat. I've read an article or two about how hard it was back then too, and how uncooperative it was, and it probably was pretty similar. As you can imagine, we weren't that different back then than we are today. I think we're certainly worse today in a lot of ways, but still, I think there's a certain universality to human nature, and these American cultural attributes that we have today go way further back than most people realize.
Yeah, and I think there's that extra added thing where, I mean, I would think that back in 1918, most people, the kind of job you had was more probably labor intensive, wasn't so diverse. Like there weren't so many different types of jobs for most of the population. So now with so much more diversity and so of job type, and then also this really strong entrepreneurial spirit that I guess we have as a nation, and maybe that's in the world too. I'm not trying to say it's unique to U.S., but it's just made it really difficult for people to swallow this because it's like I need to get back to work, is kind of the thing. And I get it. I totally understand it. I mean, how could what are you supposed to do? We don't have any support system. So there's
Mm-hmm.
no way to say, well, I can hold off for another few months. It's like, well, it's either now or my family and I are on the street, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's a
It's
scary.
you're exactly right. And I'm looking at resuming my tours potentially in 2 weeks. My van tours, and I have a good friend that's a nurse practitioner, and I consulted with her over my ideas and what her thoughts on it. I realize this is calculated risk. I'm not batshit crazy for doing this. I I feel like I need to make some money and I need to try something. And I have willing customers right now that are itching to go out and have a good time. And assuming they cooperate with me, I'm going to give small private tours a go. Okay. And so my idea is to wear an N95 mask covered with my cloth mask and leave the windows down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it. If I do it once and I hate it, I won't do it again. I'm looking at like groups of 5, 6 people. I'll encourage them to sit in the back of the van. Also, I don't know if I told you this, I'm going to have basically a zero tolerance policy, which means that if anybody gets cute and decides to not cooperate or take off their mask or not follow the rules that I lay out, the tour's over instantly, no questions asked, no refunds given.
I think that's fair. And
Yeah. So
nowadays I think you can get a big bulk thing of masks, those kind of like
yeah,
lighter
yeah,
hospital masks. It's maybe,
yeah. Well, ideally, we're gonna have bring your own mask, but yeah, I can handle the surgical mask just fine.
yeah.
Um, so
Hmm.
I just kind of wanted to tell my story because it's like you really touched on something when you said we're not getting any support. Once again, we make this comparison between America and all the other, what they want to say, Western democratic societies of the world, and every last one of them are providing for their people, and America's not. And it's really hitting us hard, man. We'd be doing so much better with some support, and we wouldn't have to take these risks, which honestly I'd rather not take. To your point, it's like, how long do you wait until you're out on the streets? Or do I sit here and bleed dry my entire savings all the way to zero? How long do I wait? What do I do? Nobody knows what to do. And I'm going to try to do something just like a lot of people have been forced to do really during the duration of the pandemic.
Well, I mean, I wish you nothing but the best. It's really sad, like the state of affairs, that it's such a political thing. And I think ultimately the this notion of like giving support to people has really become like who's going to save you, is it going to be the Democrats or the Republicans?
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm,
far both of them are
mm-hmm.
like, eh, I'm fine, I got a job, I'm making money, I don't give a shit. And I mean, dude, look, they went on a vacation, or they put the House and the Senate into like a recess for over a month. Well, people were like, I don't have any money, like, what am I supposed to do? And dude, I'm like disappointed. I'm ashamed in a lot of ways, like that, that we, and it's been said a million times that, in the past few months, it's like we're the richest country in the world, and yet we can't take care of our own people. And it's almost like what they would say is the one of the hallmarks of a failed state.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot take care of the basic needs of their people when it's necessary. And if, is voting going to help that? I don't know. I mean, I
Mm.
hope so, but
No, Chris Hedges is going all over the internet, and any forum he can get right now, spreading his message that voting is not going to do shit, that it's going to take massive civil unrest to stop this at the very last moment before it's too late, and that's the only thing possible. And he's just shouting that everywhere. What I just wonder is, how do you get to the point from apathy to that heightened state of concern to where you're willing to do anything or risk anything to save society and make a better life for your society? It seems like such a gulf to overcome. I imagine it happens really quickly, like just bam. But have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they talk about Maslow, or is it Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and what that is, the top three are food, shelter, water, and or probably water, food, shelter, or I don't know which is first, but and we've touched on this in one of our very early podcasts about, we're so comfortable right now, and this was pre-COVID. We were comfortable, so it's like no one's going to do anything when they're comfortable, even if it's an illusion of comfort. On the other hand, yes, I think it could get there sometime soon. Because I mean, what's going to happen if they just start evicting people?
Yeah, the eviction was coming to mind while you were talking the whole time. I couldn't wait to say evictions, but another thought that came into my head is, we live in a caste society, basically the have-a-lots and the have-nots. Okay, and all of the people that have a lot aren't suffering now, and they're not going to suffer ever. So they're not going to be on board with the social transformation or the revolution. They have most to lose. So it's a really interesting dynamic that, there is going to be this big push from the bottom, but, a very, very small, powerful segment at the top doesn't want it to happen. They're going to do anything they can to prevent it from happening. And, that brings in all this social mind manipulation that they're so good at. They can make you act, they can make you think, they can make you feel an emotion. So it's a really, really interesting time, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and I could get into like a conspiracy theory that I have about that. But the other thing and it is along the same lines, is they've done a really good job of demonizing protesting. So any kind. So whatever it is, all they have to do is say Antifa, say Black BLM, but not like the movement of Black Lives Matter. They mean like the organization, which, basically, as their leaders have said, like, we're Marxists and blah blah blah. So I mean, it's easy to manipulate that part, and I just, it's the gulf between the two groups, and I mean, the far left and the far right is so wide. I don't see them coming together to make that happen, and I think that that's on purpose. And I said it the last podcast. I think that's done on purpose, because they know that together that would change things. Together they would change things, but they can't. That's the real fear I think that they have, is if people really know who's screwing them, which I think everybody does, but they still are easily swayed by their party or their group or whatever, their in group, that it's easy to keep us separated than it is. I mean, it's easy, but it's also necessary to keep us separated. So they can spend billions of dollars to do that, but they won't throw $150 billion to shore up, or I don't even know, man. That's probably a way low number to actually help people, but even so, like they created 4 or 5 trillion out of thin air. Why not another one or two and say, this is for the people to survive through the winter?
Well,
No,
that's what the guy from the Fed said. Is it Paulson? I don't remember, but
not
that's what he.
Mnuchin.
Well, yeah, but it was somebody else. Whoever Paulson is, it might have been Mnuchin, but he said that the Fed can virtually print an unlimited supply of money as needed, when needed, and he actually encouraged the politician to do that. They won't do it because it's this whole thing versus capitalism versus socialism. I know they don't want to have Americans see the government giving them handouts or get used to it or like it. So they're preventing it because they're like drawing a line in the sand saying, we are not that kind of country. And it's damaging society. Drastic times call for drastic measures. And that's when you throw out ideology and you revert to practicality. It's been done historically and it can be done here. The very first thing we need to do is unelect Trump. I'd unelect Pelosi, I'd unelect Schumer, I'd unelect McConnell. If we could just get all of those people out at the same time, then we might have some hope. But every one of those people are corrupt criminals, man.
Yeah, and they're deeply entrenched in it. And that is, I totally agree with you 100%. And that's a tough thing to do. It's a really tough thing to do. So back to that point you made, I just bring this up, this thought. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this too, like where you go on like a kind of a journey, like on say YouTube, okay, like you start watching certain videos about certain things and it kind of gets you into like a thought process. And then all of a sudden, like after, you do that for a month or a few weeks, and then all of a sudden you just stop watching it and you start watching this other thing, which is almost like diametrically opposed to what you were watching before thought wise. And I've just had these weird, and again, I'm not saying like I have like a chip in my brain or so. I'm not going that far. I'm just saying to talk about like how they can manipulate the media and what we do see, even the little bit that we do see, because you and I are not like super ensconced in like social media. Like you definitely have taken a big break from it. I never really did much on it anyways, but there it is. It's like they have a way of just sort of making you think one way or the other. Now, it seems kind of ridiculous. So what I also think is that for me, like right now, like thinking about how do we bring everyone together? Like, I don't know if that's something I could ever do. I mean, I'm not trying to say like I'm some kind of revolutionary that could just be like the linchpin, but
well, I think giving voice to the idea is a huge start, man.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just, my thought is like, I want to know what each side thinks. And I want to get to the point where I understand it to an extent where I can accept it and go, okay, I don't hate you for the way you think. I just think that there's a better way. And
so you're saying listen.
yeah, I guess so. Listen and allow myself to go, what part of me, what part of my soul and my spirit inside would think that way? Because this is one of those things that that Carl Jung talks about, is that shadow self, and it could be different things for different people, but it's like incorporating that into who you are is like understanding that you can be a monster but not act on it, and not to say like the other side is a monster, but I mean in that regard, it's like, can you understand what both sides think and go, yeah, I could go there, I could get there, and then temper that with some kind of like logic or something, or rationality in the middle, where I go, where I think like, okay, like I know where these two far sides are and I can understand them, but the rational side of me says, we're all like right in here somewhere. Like they're out here, we're in here, but all we're hearing is these voices.
That's true.
Hearing these voices. And that's what's really disturbing to me, is that there's no middle ground anymore. Somewhere along the way, some group of people, and I don't give a shit who it was, whether it's super powerful people throughout the world that control the media and blah, 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 all that kind of shit, or if it's just like special interests in here and there, somewhere they decided that they have to keep this to me, what I think is just a complete farce, that everybody is so far apart. Either you're
Mhm.
this or you're this.
Mhm.
I don't agree
Yeah.
with that. I think that
Mhm.
that's dangerous and it's subversive.
Well,
So
it's that whole duality thing that the human mind seems to fall into, you know, male, female, black, white, digitals, ones and zeros. You know, and then, you know, left, right. You know, you can be both. You can be shades of gray. And I really wanted to touch on the middle ground thing, because I think that is the way forward. And obviously, Brett Weinstein with his Unity Party has given voice to that, and most recently, probably the highest profile voice of anybody in probably quite some time. And I look at his campaign as a movement, not just simply a 2020 political campaign. It's a movement. And I think that is the ticket to build a centrist coalition of center right and center left that's going to outnumber and outflank and outvoice these minorities on each side. That has to be the way forward. And I'm very idealistic. I'm also very practical. I like your idea of listening to the other side. You know, listen to their concerns, listen to their point of view, get to know it. Don't belittle it. You know, don't make fun of it. We're both really highly smart people that are trying to solve problems in the way that we think is best. But you're never going to sway left to right or right to left. So the way you do it is by compromise, by trading favors. This is what you've always done. You got to give a little to get a little. The solution is so right there, but these leaders are not being leaders, and they're acting like we don't know what they're doing.
yeah, this was something that I learned, and I'm sure you probably did too. Like I probably learned that in grade school, I suppose, because we used to watch these videos of like how bills get made or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
was, and it wasn't like a cartoon thing. It was like it was in Iowa. It was here's Senator Grassley, here's Senator Tom Harkin, who were the two senators
Mm-hmm.
in Iowa when I was a kid, and Grassley's still there, but it would follow them around, and it literally would. That's exactly what it was. They would go they would go and speak to the other party. They would make a concession on one vote and ask for their vote on their thing, and it was just a simple, like, gentlemanly, or woman. I don't, what's the female woman, gentlemanly. Anyways, it's like in a gentleman's agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'll help you with your thing if you help me with mine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, and I mean, I suppose there's probably been studies or probably been research on
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the way that got skewed, and it just kept voting in more and more radical. Not, I mean, I don't say radical in the good way, like radical people that, like now you end up with Matt Getz on one side from Florida, who's, I don't know if you know who that is. He's this like pretty boy, frat boy, Republican scumbag. And
Mm-hmm.
this is me saying, like, I am listening to the sides, but this guy's, everything he does and says just makes me go, oh, what a scumbag. He's that, kind of like right wing, like everything that you do is bad because you think you want to help people. And then on the other side, you have like AOC or somebody like that. And it just riles feathers, man. And they're probably idealistic people at their heart, but I mean, what the fuck happened, dude, in this country? What happened? Is it just the money? Is it the
I
money?
don't know.
Just like,
Now, you said special interests, and that's something that kind of has, been the refrain for almost 30 years now. The government's been taken over by special interests. I think what happened was there's been a lack of accountability, man. Those types of society, you have to have fierce pushback all the time against government in order to keep them in line. And we got apathetic. We got fat and rich, man. I think it's just as simple as that, man. And we let them take it too far, and now it's like a really uphill battle to get anything back, anything at all. We can't even get a second $1,200 stimulus check that they've been talking about and arguing about since July, man.
and I mean, how pointless is that? Now, look, I mean, that's a lot of money for people, for me too. It's not pointless in the theory, but it's like, here's $1,200. Now shut up. That's what I got out of that. Like,
Yeah,
don't, we did something for you. That's all you're
yeah,
gonna.
Yeah,
this.
and we're not going to do that again. So,
We're
you
not
know,
gonna
just
go
don't
down.
even. Yeah.
And I mean, we did go off on a tangent here, but it leads back to that original point. There's nothing, unfortunately, I feel like there's nothing we can do to change this that doesn't have some kind of, you know, mass civil unrest component to it. I hate to say that. I hate that we're there. And see, like, you know, a lot of, I don't know, like Chris Hedges, I don't know what the right and the left and their whole view of him is, because he doesn't really fall down on those things, but he's seen this before.
That's just it.
And that's why, like, I totally, when I read his stuff or I hear him speak, I'm like, my ears perk up, because I'm like, when somebody's like, I viewed this happening, it makes you go, okay, like this is the history. It's doomed to, you know, you're doomed to repeat it if you don't know your history. But ultimately, like, again, it gets back to this idea that you or anybody who's sitting in this situation, you have no choice. I mean, either you go out and start digging ditches or harvesting crops or something, or you take a chance and continue to live your dream that you built, you know, out
Mm-hmm.
of nothing. And you know, like, I mean, you and I will say, like, I feel like you and I have always have been through this whole thing very much, very conservative about how we, and I don't mean conservative in the political sense, but conservative how we have acted. We wear masks. We don't go
Yeah.
out. We don't associate with a bunch of people. You know, you don't let people into your house, you know? Um, and, you know, I don't really have anybody that comes to my house except for my kids, but you know, it's like it just goes back to this old trope of like, I do all the right things. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. Why the fuck am I still getting screwed in this whole thing?
Yep. Yep. I've
And I,
heard that refrain a lot.
I think it's just, that's where a lot of people are right now. And it's like, now again, like having sort of researched the right and the left deeper, like, I don't blame these people for being like, fuck this mask shit, fuck this COVID shit. I'm starving. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the first few weeks, it was like, come on, man, you can't last a couple months, but that ain't the point anymore. And
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
it ain't going to be the point, because this stuff's not going away until maybe next summer. We might get lucky and have some, I don't know what, but
No, I think we're to a point right now where restaurants should be allowed to open back up, you know, 50% capacity or whatever. And the people that choose to go there and take a risk should be allowed to do that. And you and I both know that tons of people won't do it. Uh, and maybe that'll give the restaurateurs a chance to save their business. Um, there's some article floating around right now, some study right now that people who have recently tested positive for COVID have they're 2 times more likely to have eaten at a restaurant.
yeah, I saw that. Interesting, huh? I mean, I guess it doesn't seem odd, but it's just
Well,
sort of
it's
just,
it's closed quarters and it's probably not good ventilation, and you're eating without your mask. That's the main thing. You're eating without your mask, if you think about it.
and then like, yeah, I mean, yeah, what can you do? Um, you know, like I think a lot about all these great businesses that have closed and some that are probably not so great. Um, and I think about like how people take that and it is, I mean, it's the end of someone's dream, right? And it's the end of someone's whole life. And that is absolutely tragic and terrible, on one hand. And on the other hand, when things get back to normal, you're going to see all these new businesses open up, taking over where they left off.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm just, again, this is me like trying to look at the glass half full. You know, maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be better businesses. Not again, like, that's not to say that they weren't great businesses, but those people might come back too. I mean, if you're somebody that has like a really cool restaurant or something that does really well and you just have to get shut down because of this, it's really about survival right now. But at some point, when it becomes like, okay, now we can do this and there's no real limits to what people do, why not just open the fucking thing back up? But then again, I get it. You get in debt, you probably are living off credit cards or something.
Well, yeah, and I think you're sounding really rosy. In all honesty, you're kind of that sounds like something I think I would say, but I'm going to call counter to that. You know, these people invested their life savings, their blood, sweat, and tears, and went into debt for these type ventures. And when they're gone, they're probably going to be left in debt and broke. And it's a lot harder to pick yourself up and start over from that point than it is, because you're less than zero, you know, as we talked about how poor you can be. And I think we're going to find a lot of that, and these people are not going to be able to go right back to being entrepreneurs. They're going to probably have to go get a job somewhere. And the way and so it's going to be 50-50. You know, there will be better replacements. Some people will be able to rebound, but a lot won't be able to, and that's really crushing. And I expect to see, when all this is said and done, there's just going to be a huge surge in suicides if we haven't seen that already. It breaks my heart, but I kind of feel it in the ether, man. There's so much sadness. There's so much devastation of lives destroyed, dude. Lives destroyed. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we could have prevented. And also another thing that I've heard is, once all this low-hanging fruit, reduced value assets are left kind of on the battlefield in the wasteland, all the people that still have money are going to scoop in and buy this stuff at pennies on the dollar. And it's just going to be more corporate control of even our local communities. And I didn't really say that to be as big of a downer as it just sounded like, but I wanted to present a point of view that was counter to your rosy outlook.
Yeah, I think that's true, man. I mean, that was the other side of the whole thing, is this idea that McDonald's is still there, and all of those cheap chain restaurants, that's all that's going to be left.
Doing better than ever, man. Taco Bell, McDonald's, Walmart, Amazon, you know, Home Depot, HEB.
So I mean,
they're kicking ass, dude.
Oh God, yeah, HEB is really kicking ass, and they deserve to, because they really have a wonderful job with this. And so I mean, in the end, I guess it, like you said, 50-50. So like there's 50% of that comeback story that's going to have to be new people, new entrepreneurs that haven't gone into debt yet. But then you're taking a risk, right? Then you're then it's like, now you're going to have to borrow money from somebody who's even more reticent to do it, or gives you some shitty,
right,
you know, percentage. I don't know, man. It feels like it hasn't even like really happened yet. Like we're getting there. Like things are starting to shut down now. Bars in Austin, you know, there's a few of them that have been shutting down for a month or so. So, you know, I know some of my favorites will probably shut down. I don't know, but I'm sure a hole in the wall ain't gonna last if they haven't already shut down. Dude, it's tragedy, man. It's tragedy, but I don't know. Is that the thing that spurs the final? Is that the final straw before they just go, well, I ain't got nothing to lose now, and people aren't gonna fix it. So I don't know.
It's just so painfully obvious that the way we have our society organized right now doesn't work for the people. It doesn't work in a pandemic. It doesn't work in regular times. And in my heart of hearts, I'm just hoping people see that and realize that, like I do. I'm not sure they will, or they do. It's fundamental, dude.
Yeah.
It's not an accident why we're doing such a horrible job at this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? There's like nothing that can be said or done that's going to change the minds of those people who refuse to do the right thing. That to me is the most perplexing part of it. It is and it isn't, because I mean, you know, I feel like our education system has done a great job of turning out the newest crop of numb, low achieving, low standards group of people that we've seen.
Self-centered.
Yeah, self-centered. group of people that we've seen in ever, maybe in the history of our country. You know, I mean, it's like every other day I keep hearing this like this refrain of like, are we going to be in a civil war? And like, I'm like, man, it's just so unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you could talk some of these idiots into doing this. I think you can talk just enough into doing it. And then what? Then
I could see regional flare-ups, but I can't conceivably
like a whole
see a civil
thing.
war going on. Like, who would be against who, dude?
That, well, it's this is the thing, is it's not like a North versus South or whatever. It's more of like a factional type thing, like you said,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
which has happened, you know, and it happened in, you know, when Czechoslovakia broke up, and we had
I
Bosnia.
guess,
You
yeah,
know,
it might just be that's the way societies go, dude. Sectarian violence,
yeah,
man.
that was the word I was trying to find. But think of that, dude. It's like, how far have we come that we still have to do this shit? We still have to fucking do this shit after in 2020.
And
Of
it's just like these factions just want to kill the other until the feeding frenzy's over. And then, you know, once they're exhausted and full, then I guess they'll stop and discover and confess the errors in their way.
maybe. Well, this election period, man, this is, you know, I wonder sometimes what would this be like if this was like 2 years ago and this pandemic happened, because it's an election year. I mean, everything is like, it's election year. It's these fires. It's all these hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it gives credence to these like, oh, it's the end of the world. It's the end times shit. And you know, man, I'm just like, I'm like, man, just give me the aliens landing. That's all. Like, if this is all gonna go to shit, let me at least see some aliens landing.
We need some California earthquakes. We need some tsunamis.
Just
But we still got like 3 months left, dude.
oh man. Well, and the funny thing is like, man, we can't get to 2021 fast enough. I'm like, this is just the beginning. This shit ain't gonna change. And I know that sounds like really like a negative take, but it's not like some magically. Let's say Biden wins. That ain't gonna change anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people that are progressives even say it could be even worse than Trump.
I think things are going to continue to get worse under Biden, or no matter who wins the election.
Yeah,
I think that's the trajectory we're on. It will be. It's all going to depend on your perspective, whether it's better or worse, right?
Right. Which side you're on, I guess.
Well, I just, you know, just like everybody was against Obama the whole time, and now they're against Trump the whole time, we're just going to have half the country belly aching and just being against Biden for the whole 4 fucking years, like he's some kind of radical communist, which is so laughable, man. So laughable. So I guess there's a new story making the rounds today that I don't know where it came from, but about Joe Rogan having Trump and Biden on his podcast. I'll tell you right now, that will never happen. Never. There's no way in hell that they're going to agree to go talk for 3 hours on his fucking show. I just don't see it happening.
I don't even know if they have 3 hours of material. They'd probably end up liking each other or some shit. But I don't. Right. But again, like, I totally agree with you. Like, it would never happen because the sound bites are everything. That's what the political landscape is. I don't think that either has any real policy ideas anyways.
But also, these campaigns are run by a centralized power structure that is like the most powerful thing in the world. There's no way they're going to give somebody like Joe Rogan, who's decentralized, the power to mediate a debate. There's just no way, dude. That's where I'm coming from.
It would be great if that happened, though.
I agree.
That would be the culmination of 2020. Is this like now? Okay. Because I mean, I thought about this too, like a little while ago. I was like, you're going to have two. I mean, one's a obvious megalomaniac, and the other one is like, I mean, it's fair to say, conservatively speaking, might be in the early stages of onset dementia.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to thumb through what? I mean, what would they don't have 5 minutes of material between them, I don't think. So
They would just keep, and in these speeches, all they do is repeat talking points anyway. They're just like this,
it
and
would be
that's
the
all.
most boring thing.
What Mike would do is just, we're gonna do this, and this. Like I said before, we're gonna, it's like, oh, hopefully Joe would be able to cut through it and call bullshit and get something happening.
That would be so great, though. That would be the most watched thing ever. I bet you anything. That would be the most watched thing ever. To see two presidential candidates actually have to speak. Because, I mean, the reality is like 10 minutes in, they'd be done with their talking points. And then it's like, okay, who is this person? That's what the greatness of that would be, is like, now you're really going to find out who this person is. And you'd probably you'd probably be surprised on both sides, but yeah, that was pretty hilarious. I think it'd be great if they did that.
So I don't know, we're just kind of free flowing for these last few minutes. Have you noticed, but there's been like 2 or 3 Middle East peace deals with Israel and other countries in the last few days?
Yep.
Why do you think this shit's all landing right now? Just coming out of the pipeline, but nothing's ever happens accidentally. Everything's orchestrated and timed perfectly.
Yeah.
Why is this stuff landing right now? Is it for Netanyahu maybe?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, Putin. Trump is a big supporter of Israel. So I could see Netanyahu like giving him a little gift, right? Like, okay, we'll do this thing.
Well, Netanyahu's in trouble at home right now. He's facing some of the biggest threats that he's faced, in his entire career. And I wonder if these peace deals help him politically or not. I'm kind of ignorant as far as that goes, but I think it's noteworthy and I think it's good. If you get any 2 countries to broker a peace deal, I don't know what's under the hood. I don't know if it's complete bullshit.
This is the thing.
I'm totally for the idea of it. And if it is a good thing, Trump deserves props, and that's where we have to be. He can't be 100% bad, dude. It's just not that way. He's a complete idiot, loser, and asshole. But I bet you somewhere he's done some policy changes that I agree with. And so we have to kind of start looking at the world that way.
I agree with you. And this really goes back to the point I was trying to make. We haven't started a needless war since he's been in office. Now that is pretty fucking noteworthy, because every president for the last like you could go back to 80 has had some kind of.
Well, the last one that didn't was Carter, dude.
Yeah. So that is a pretty noteworthy thing in and of itself. And yet again, it's almost like it's just a freebie, right? He gets to say, I brought the troops home, when in reality, the Congress and the Senate approved him, or the Congress gave him another 170 some billion dollars for for defense on top of the 600 some billion that we already spent. So it's not like he's some peace negotiator and shit. But to your point, I think there absolutely, it's not like, oh, we finally figured it out today. This shit is like, we're going to do this here, right? And but I think the point that you made is what I've been thinking the whole time, is what the fuck's under the hood? What is this actually? Are you actually doing anything, or is this just?
Are you doing anything good?
Is this shit you would have done anyways, and you're just slapping a peace treaty on top of it?
Yeah.
I mean, that with these people, that's in my mind now. I mean, and maybe this is another thing of like how you control populations. You make them so fucking cynical that, like, I don't believe in it. I mean, I believe it's a good thing if it is what it is, but there's peace deals all the time, and then 2 years later, they're lobbing bombs at each other again.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything? I don't know. Like, I guess it's 2 years of peace for for the poor people of those countries. Who knows? But I mean, that again, that's pretty pessimistic. But man, I just don't know anymore, dude. Like, um, did you bring this up before? And I think we talked about this a little bit. But there was like the CIA guy that said we'll know that our job is done when everything the American people believe is a lie. And
you've brought that up before. I've never brought that up, but you've talked about that before.
So that guy, and I think it was William Colby, maybe, or something, like one of these CIA directors said that, older one. And I mean, it's just, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just like, I don't trust anything I see anymore. And I hate that. I want to believe, and I believe that there are good sources out there. So I put it on a scale of 1 to 10, but most of
you raise an interesting kind of situation here. I was going to strive for a better word. How do you disseminate information and truth when everybody's distrusting and thinks everything's a lie, or everything, that's questionable to their belief system is a lie? How do you disseminate, information anymore? Like, if you're the good guy?
Man, I think like podcasting is a good way to do it. You and I don't get paid by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean, that's hard because sometimes you can't trust, you don't know who the person is, but you look like somebody like Weinstein or somebody like that who's smart, right? So I think we start to have to kind of bring things back to like people's ability to think, like who are good, who are good thinkers, and what are those good thinkers saying?
Right.
And that's something I think is pretty easy to parse out. Like,
see, that's
a good thinker or not.
I just didn't really think about it long enough to ask you the question. I really wanted your feedback on that. But you're right. This is where the whole podcast explosion is coming from. People want real voices, and they want, this decentralization of media to where, nobody owns Joe Rogan or nobody owns Pat and Shane. As long as, YouTube and Spotify are willing, we can say whatever the fuck we want. Yeah. And that's really important, because on all the other platforms, you can't say whatever you want. You're boxed in, there's lines, there's censors, and just those guys cannot say what they're thinking. Yeah. And so I like the podcast idea. So it's basically indie media. Any indie platform is a solution to kind of getting the ideas out there. And I guess it's just up to the individual to decide if they like somebody or not, or decide if they're straight shooters or not, or do their research and come to some sort of a finding on that person or that act or whatever.
Yeah. I think that makes sense, right? I mean, people could look at us and go, well, who the hell are these? I don't know who these people are. But it's like, if I say something and your gut, or somebody's gut, or you say something and their gut says, yeah, that's how I feel about that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's reality? I guess it goes back to that thing. It's like,
and then, just that one person that we may catch, because obviously our listenership is extremely low right now. If that one person kind of gets hit in their ear, something rings in their ear, and then they go down the street, maybe it's their significant other, maybe it's one of their buddies, maybe it's, shopkeeper, whatever, and they get into a conversation, and they're like, oh yeah, you just reminded me of this thing I heard on Pie the Corner podcast. And then they go into it, and it takes on another life out there and kind of multiplies exponentially. But, that happens. It happens. And I think, sure. I would really say that's why we do this. And hopefully over time, we can expand our influence. Who knows? Only time will tell that.
Yeah. And that's a great way to put it. Like, why this is a great reason to do something like this for anybody, because it's like, in the end, you go to a party or whatever, when you could go to a party, and you have conversations with people, and somebody might strike you as like, oh, I really like that thought, or like, oh, I don't like that thought. Well, shit, man, that's art. If you like it or you don't like it, at least it's like you're getting something out of it. media news, like big media news, is like the anti-art. It's just some bland, like, amalgamation of different stories that may or may not speak to you, but always have a slant and always are trying to make you feel something, trying to get you to be, frustrated or sad or upset or happy or whatever. It doesn't allow an individual to make that choice. Like, here's what this person thinks about this. I don't agree with that, and I'm going to say that. That stuff is just like, bleh. It throws it up on you and you fucking deal with it. And then here's an AstraZeneca commercial on top of it. Now go buy this fucking drug too. And so yeah, I think decentralization of media and indie media, that's where we're going to get an amalgamation of a truth. It's maybe individual's truth, but you take that with your own and maybe other people you meet, and you might find some reality in there and some truth in there. And I think that, yeah, maybe it's on a small scale at first, but I mean, shit, everything good happens on a small scale.
Yeah, everything starts somewhere. Okay, I want to lighten things up now. I was kind of daydreaming yesterday during this whole COVID thing, still more isolated than I'd prefer to be. I'm a very social butterfly. If you could, I'll give you a choice for how you could answer this question.
Okay.
If you can tell me if you could be doing anything in the world right now, what would it be? Or if you could be anywhere in the world right now, other than what you're doing right now, here right now, if you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be?
I right before all this happened, I had this idea of going to Europe and traveling through Germany. And my original goal was I was going to fly into Copenhagen, Denmark, and do a walking tour from Denmark through Germany, and then fly through out through like Frankfurt, like 3-4 weeks later. So I would love to be able to just be out doing some adventure on the road somewhere, and if not there, just to drive somewhere. And I guess I can drive places, but doing something like that was something that I miss the idea that I could go do that anytime, because you can't really now. So that's someplace I would want to be right now, is like in some old fucking 400-year-old bar drinking a beer in some German.
Yeah.
Just because like that's a place I've always wanted to go. So
making new friends with a local.
Yeah, making friends and just like having those moments where you're just like, this is what it's about. What about you?
Okay, me, I didn't have to think very long or hard when I asked myself that question. Right now, just right now, I would love to be in a white sand beach with turquoise water in the Caribbean somewhere. No, just kind of, you know why? Because it feels like it's away from it all. I would not choose to go to a city right now, like what you just said. I want to fucking get away, dude. Just get away, dude. That's where my heart is, man. But there's nowhere to go, dude.
I mean, you could. I mean, we can drive places, I suppose, but
there's gonna be dirty people there carrying their disease and hacking coughs and sneezes.
Yeah, taking their mask off to cough.
So they don't want to get their mask dirty. That is funny, my friend, because I've seen that exact thing in public.
You told me about that.
Like, oh my. Well, what do you say? You want to wrap this up?
Sure. Well, thank you everybody for listening in again. And of course, we're Pie the Corner, and you can find us now at Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, a whole host of other podcasting platforms. We do have a website up now. It's PTC Podcasts
.com.
Sorry, PTCpodcast.com. Look at that. I've never had a website before, as you can tell. So yeah, PTCpodcast.com. You can also find us on YouTube at Pie the Corner Podcast. So take a
And,
listen, take a view, like our stuff, give us some feedback. Subscribe to our YouTube page. What else, Shane?
yeah, that's pretty much it. I was going to say, we're just getting started. So if you guys do dig us, please subscribe, hit that like button, whatever, because it helps us a lot in the algorithm, and we need to be found.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. Take care.
Okay, ciao.